person plans to invest a total of $12,000 into a savings Bank of Manchester CD at 1.92% annual interest rate, and a Vanguard Wellesley income mutual fund that has a 3-year average annual interest rate of 8%. Let X and Y be the money in dollars invested in the CD and the mutual fund respectively. Part A, let I equal to f of x be the total interest in dollars earned from investing the $12,000 for 1 year. Find the equation of f. Okay, so we got a grand total of $12,000 that needs to be invested into both of these accounts. One of them is a CD. What does CD stand for? You go to the bank and you get a CD. What are you getting? A certificate of deposit. Okay. It's almost like a savings account, except it's a little different. What's the difference? Who knows? Yeah.
You can't take your money out for a year.
Correct. You agree that you restrict your ability to take it out, or you promise you won't be trying to take it out. You can break the promise. But there's a bunch of penalties and fees, and they just really punish you for taking it out. So you promise you're not going to take it out for a period of time, and in exchange for that, they give you slightly higher interest rates. So that's the deal with the CDs. They are still FDIC insured, right? What's FDIC insured mean?
They guarantee you like $250,000.
Who guarantees it to you? That's right. Who does though? Who guarantees it?
The government.
The government, right? Not the bank. So it's an insurance policy that the banks have to take out with the federal government, so that if the bank goes bankrupt, they go under, then your savings is protected up to certain limits, and they vary if you're an individual or a couple or a business and all kinds of stuff. So be careful with that. But for most people, your savings is secure. So it's guaranteed that you're not going to lose your money, and that you're going to get your interest, that you agree to, as long as you don't try and take out the money early. That's what a CD is. Now, what's a mutual fund then? The other investment vehicle you want to use is a mutual fund, and it has something about a 3-year average annual return of 8%. So a mutual fund is... Well, you're getting a lot more interest rate, right? At 8%, that's way better than 1.92%. Why would anybody choose 1.92 when you can get 8? Let's just all go with 8. Why is there a difficult choice to be made here? What's?
Over a period of time.
Nope, it's all going to be, in this case, it's going to be for the same length of time. The higher the interest rate, the higher the risk, right? So why is there a higher risk here? Mutual funds are not FDIC insured.
These are the ones where they invest and then they get your money back.
Right, it's like an investment club. Like all of us put some money together. Everybody in here gave me $1,000. We'll put it all together, and I'm going to go to the stock market and I'm going to invest in this and the other. You know, I present myself as someone who's really knowledgeable about the stock market, and I can get all you guys really good returns, blah blah blah. So we pool in our money together, and then a manager takes all that money and invests it, hopefully wisely. And if they make good money, they come back and distribute it among the people that invested. And if they lose it, they lose it, and they go, oops, sorry guys, I lost it all. Better luck next time. So it can be dangerous. So there is no guarantee, zero guarantee that you'll either get your money back or that you'll even make any money. There's no guarantees. However, the only thing they can go by is what they've done in the past. And that's why they're saying that they have a 3-year average annual interest rate of 8%. So on average, in the past 3 years, their investors have been able to recoup 8% interest. So that's something that you can kind of be guided by. But you should always be aware that, you know, what happened last year has nothing to do with what's happening this year. It's one of the most common traps in Wall Street, that somebody gets lucky one year, they make a ton of money. The next year, a bunch of people give them money. Ooh, you guys were geniuses last year. Here's a bunch of money. Invest it for me. Make me money. And then they lose everything. So you should be careful that prior returns aren't necessarily a guarantee of what they're going to do next year. But, you know, in the absence of anything else, it's something, I guess. So for the purposes of this problem, we're just going to make a big assumption that since the past 3 years have gotten an average return of 8%, we're going to assume this coming year they're also going to get an average return of 8%, or not. You know, there's always that. We could be off. Okay, so we're going to make a decision to distribute our $12,000 between these two accounts. Some of it will go to the CD account at 1.92%. Some of it will go into the mutual fund at 8%. And we kind of have to decide, you know, what to do. So we'd like to have a function, f of x, equal to the total interest earned from investing the $12,000 for exactly 1 year. Okay. So before we dive into creating that particular equation, what's the overarching formula that we need whenever you start to see the words interest and amount of money invested and for a certain length of time? What's that formula involving those things? Interest earned is equal to a rate, right? A rate times the amount of money invested. So money invested times a rate of return times time, right? A certain amount of money invested at a certain interest rate for a certain length of time. And these two things have to match in terms of units. So the rate of return is going to be given it's going to be given as a ratio with a certain unit of time, and it's got to match that right there. Okay? Almost always, the rates are standardized. And that's something the government does to try and protect consumers. Because prior to that, banks would just trick people all the time. You know, they would provide rates per week, per year, per 10 years, per 10 months. You know, as you change the units of time for the rate, it could confuse some people. And so just to standardize it and make sure that consumers don't get tricked, one of the things our government has done is that required that everything be based on years. So almost always you run on an annual percent rate. So this is almost always given in terms of years, which means that this has to match. If this is an 8% annual return, you can't multiply it by 4 days, right? Because that doesn't match. So you got to figure out how do we convert 4 days into years? What decimal number of a year is it? Does that make sense? Okay, so we have to be careful that they match. Luckily for us in this particular case, we're even simpler because all we're doing right now is working with 1 year, right? In all of these questions, we're only working with 1 year. So for us, this guy's always 1 year. We just have to make sure that this guy is also given in terms of years, which is, I think, almost always the case in this section. So this kind of disappears. And so for us, it's really just that. The amount of money invested times the rate of return, just keeping in mind that it's for a year. Good? Okay, so that's the overarching formula that we're going to be using. So now we got to think about what they asked us to find. We want to find a function where, what is the input-output going to be? We want to find some f of x, where there's something in here. What kind of thing are we going to input? And what kind of a thing are we going to get out of it? Right, looking at part A, it says, let I equal to f of x be the total interest in dollars earned from investing $12,000 for 1 year. Find an equation of f. So what kind of a thing is the input into this function? Once I find it, maybe it's like 3x squared minus 2, whatever it is. What's the input? What kind of a thing is it? Money? Okay, more specifically, what kind of a money? The amount of money invested into the CD account, right? I know that because they asked me to find f of x. Well, I should put there. They asked me to find f of x, so the whole thing is out. So the X itself is the input, and X has been defined as the amount of money that you decide to invest into the CD account, right? So you're going to choose to input how much money you put into the CD account. The rest of it goes into the mutual fund, the rest of the 12,000. And then the output, the final result, is the total amount of interest earned from both accounts. Good? Okay. So I want to say that the interest earned, the total interest, is going to be equal to the interest from the CD account plus interest from the mutual fund. Good? Sound fair? Okay. So, let's come up with some way to just represent this. The interest earned from the CD account, so that's going to be equal to the money invested in the CD times the rate of return for the CD or CD. So that represents the interest earned from the CD. How much money you invest in the CD times the interest rate for the CD, that should give you the amount of money that you've earned in interest for the CD. Good? Plus the interest for the mutual fund, the amount of money you earn from investing into the mutual fund, is going to be equal to the money invested in mutual fund times the rate of return. Oops. For the mutual fund. Okay. All right. So 4 things here. We know some of them. What do we know from this word problem? The interest rate is given, right? That is fixed. That doesn't change. They're telling us that the CD account is going to earn 1.92% interest rate, and that's not going to change. So it's annual. Make sure it matches, right? Because it's going to be for 1 year. And so this is going to be given in terms of years, an annual interest rate. So it matches with the 1 year. We're going to leave that alone, right? So there could be like a times 1 year here if we wanted to put it in there. Okay, so this is going to be 0.0192. Don't forget to convert our percentages into decimal representations of percentages in order to be able to do the arithmetic. So move the decimal over, 1, 2, that's 1.92%. Moving it this way, we get 0.0192. Plus, okay, so this guy and this guy, let's go here to this rate. What's this rate going to be? What's the interest rate for the mutual fund? 8%, right? Okay, so this is going to be 0.08%. Right, moving the decimal over 2 spaces. And now what do we use for this guy and what do we use for that guy? 12,000? And what do we use for the next one?
Isn't 12,000?
It's 12,000 total, right? You have a total of $12,000 you want to invest. If you do it this way, then you're saying you're putting all your money into the CD and like nothing over there. Well, if you do 6 and 6, then you're making the decision already that you're going to put half here and half there. But what we want is a function that gives you the flexibility of choosing how much you want to put into each one. So we want to use some variables. We were told to define X and Y to be the amount of money invested into the CD account. And so this is an unknown value, right? I don't know, maybe it's going to be $1. Maybe it's going to be all 12,000. I don't know, right? Which means that this guy is the Y. So X is the amount of money invested into the CD account, and Y is the amount of money invested into the mutual fund. Okay?
Is it equal to 12,000 now?
We'll get to that in 1 second. So what we have right here is the the interest. Interest earned is equal to this formula, right? Interest earned. Interest is this. The whole interest earned for your whole investment is equal to this formula. And that's sort of what they wanted. They wanted I equal to f of x, be the total interest earned. So we're almost there, except I can't quite make this equal to f of x. You know, I would like my next step to be, let this be f of x equal to this. But I can't do that because why?
Why?
Because of the y, right? This is a function of x. I want this to be nothing but x's in there, and there's a y. Right now, I could write it as f of x comma y, like two unknown variables, but then it just complicates life. I got two unknown variables, I don't know the interest, I don't know this, I don't know that. Too many unknowns, so we're not happy with that. So we got to come up with a way of describing this same thing with only x's in it. So we got to come up with another statement that's true about x and y, and I heard it a second ago. What else do we know for sure about x and y? They have to be equal to 12,000. So another true statement, right? So we'll say that this is one true statement that we got, and another one is going to be that 12,000 must be equal to the sum of x and y. Right? Because I know that together, the whole amount of money invested here and all the money invested there together must be 12,000. Okay? Alright, so now I have two equations here and two unknowns. I don't know x, I don't know y. So what I can do is I can solve for one of the letters in this equation and plug it into the other one. So I could really choose either one, but keeping in mind that I ultimately want to have this as an f of x, I would like to get rid of that y. I'm going to do substitution by solving for y and plugging it into there. So solving for y from here, I end up with 12,000 minus x equals y. Right? So this guy right here is what I'm going to take and I'm going to plug right into there. Good? Questions, 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 questions? No? No? Okay, so I don't want to erase this. Let me put it. So we had that interest. So the total interest earned, total interest is equal to, and I'm going to switch these numbers around, I hope they're okay, 0.192 x. Right, when we have a variable and a number, traditionally we like to put the number first, then the variable, so I just switch those around. Plus, and then the 0.08 y, and now I'm going to plug in, I'm going to substitute our newfound value of y. Y is equal to 12,000 minus x, so that's what's going to go in there. 0.0192x plus 0.08 times 12,000 minus x. So what is that? We distribute and combine line terms. Okay, so 0.08 times 12,000, 960. 0.0192x plus 960 minus 0.08x. 192 minus 0.08. Combining like terms. Combining like terms, we end up with negative 0.0608x plus 960. And we could leave it like this. If we leave it like this, it has the form of a number x plus another number. This looks like the form of a line, right? It's got a linear equation. So we could leave it like this, where this is the slope and this turns into our y-intercept. Or, so either this way or we can move it around and have 960 minus this. Either one is fine. So this is the total interest rate, and now it's described as x, so I can write it as f of x, where f of x is described the way they wanted us to describe it. I equals to f of x, which is the total interest earned from investing the $12,000. Any questions? No? 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 So there's nothing special about solving for y in this case. We could have just as easily solved for y here. We could have just as easily solved for x and plugged it into our equation there. And then we would have gotten an equation in terms of f of y instead of f of x. So let's explore what this means. This is a function where the input is what? What do we get? What do we plug in? X is amount of money invested in the CD. From the 12,000, how much do you invest into the CD? And what's our answer going to be? The total interest earned. Not just in the CD account, in both of them, right? Because this equation has already baked into it the fact that whatever you don't invest from the 12,000 into the CD, the rest of it will automatically go into the mutual fund, right? That's what this whole part over here gets us. Good? Questions, comments, issues? No? 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 Okay, let's explore some values with this function. Let's go over here. So, f of x equals to negative 0.0608 x plus 960. So let's come up with a table here where I have x there and f of x there. So first of all, what happens when I plug it as 0? 960. Alright, come up with a sentence to describe what this means. 0, 960. It means what?
The starting year of your investing with the CD or the mutual fund.
Okay, so at the CD account you're investing how much?
$960. $12,000.
$0. Okay, so if you invest $0 into the CD account, you make $960 in interest for the whole year. Well, how is that possible? How do you invest nothing and you make I'm down. Put me down. I want to invest in that company. Well, what's happening? The model, yeah. What's happening? What's not being written that's supposed to be understood? That's sort of baked into the equation, the way we created it. X plus y was equal to 12,000. We baked that into this equation. It's already been built in, which means that
we invest 12,000 in
the other account, right? It's not on here, but it's there. So when you invest $0 into X, that means the rest of the 12,000 goes into Y. Right? The rest of it will go into the mutual fund. They're already built that way. So this is saying when you invest $0 into the CD account and $12,000 into the mutual fund, you will make $960 in interest after 1 year. Got it? Good, good, good. Let's go with just one. One there. Okay, we put one there. This is like 6 pennies, right? If we move the decimal over, we're talking about money. So this is going to be, instead of 960, it's going to be 959.9392. Is that right? Pretty close. Pretty close to 94. Since it is money, let's just round to 94 cents. Okay? Which means that if you invested $1 into the CD account, and that means you invested $11,999 into the mutual fund, then your total interest earned for the year is $959.94. Good? Why did it go down? Because you took money away from the high interest earning account and you put it into the low interest earning account. Okay, that's why. So let's try a couple more. How about 2? How about 3? So if you plug in 2 into here, it's going to be close to 12 cents. So I think it's going to be close to $959.88. 87 point something, that probably rounds to 88. And then the next one after that is going to be another 6 down. It's going to be like 959.80, 82-ish, right? Give or take a little bit. Which means that this is the case where we invest 11,998 into there. This is the case where we invest 11,997 into there. Good? We're good? Okay, well, going down to what they asked us to answer. What if x was equal to 800, right? It said find f of 800. That means that the x is 800. That means we invest 800 bucks into the CD account. So that means that we invested how much into the other account? 11,200. Okay, so now we put 800 into there and get an answer from here. So this should be equal to negative 0.0608 times 800 plus 960. Okay, what do we get?
911 and 36 cents.
911 with 36 cents?
Yeah.
Good. Questions? Questions? No? So that's the answer to part B. So part B said, find f of 800, and we just did that. It is f of 800 equals to $911.36. And we know that this means that if we invest $900 into the CD account at 1.92% interest rate, and therefore the rest of it into the mutual fund, $11,200 into the mutual fund, the total interest earned after 1 year will be $911 with 36 cents approximately. Good? Okay. What about part C? Part C says, find the value of x when f of x equals to 800. What does this mean in this situation? So we're trying to solve this. 800 is equal to f of x, so this minus 0.0608x plus 960. Right, that's what part C is asking. Find x such that f of x equals to 800. So find the input value. Find how much we should invest into the CD account so that our total interest earned for the year is 800. Okay, so to solve it, we move over the 960. So we get negative 160 equals to negative 0.0608x. Divide both sides by the negative 0.0068. So negative 160 divided by negative 0.0608 is equal to x. And what do we get there?
2,631.
1,000 what?
2,631.
2,631.57.
0.57 or 58 rounded.
58. Okay, so with money it's customary to round to the nearest penny, so that should work out. So this means that if we invest $2,631.58 into the CD account, thereby investing the rest of the $12,000 into the mutual fund, we will earn a total of $800 in interest for the year. Good? Questions? Questions? No? Okay, and then the very last question says, find f of 15,000. What does it mean in this situation? Well, that's the same as this, right? We just plug in 15,000 into here. Part D is f of 15,000 is equal to negative 0. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna put it up here. F of 15,000 negative 0.0608 0.608 times 15,000 plus 960. So negative 0.0608 times 15,000. This is equal to negative 912 plus 960. Right, so plus 960 gets me to the 48, which gives you f of 15,000. Okay, what is this saying?
If you invest 15,000 in the CD account, you get $48.
If you invest 15,000 into both accounts, right? Because this whole thing has built into it that some of it will be invested into the CD account and some of it will be invested into the mutual fund. So in this case, this is the amount of money invested into the CD account. The rest of the, wait a minute, the rest of the 12,000. So how could this be bigger than that? So it's like $3,000 past the limit, right? So right away we would say that
The model is broken.
our model has broken, right? Our model is only really good for in choosing to invest in the CD between $0 up to $12,000, because that's what we have to invest. And that has already been baked into our equation. This equation up here is depending on you investing into either a CD or a mutual fund at these interest rates selected up there, and between $0 and $12,000. Those are limitations that we've baked into this equation. You can't just come in and change things and say, well, what if the interest rate was 5% for the CD? Well, you really have to rechange this whole equation. You can't just tweak it. You can't just plug in something different. Okay? And this thing is valid between 0 and 12,000. So plugging in 15,000 is giving you something silly. But let's just try and make a description of what happens there. So if we are, kind of keeping it with this table here. So if we do invest 15,000 into the CD account, and the rest of the 12,000 needs to be put into the annual mutual fund. Well, we need these two numbers to add up to 12, so that means I guess this is negative. You invest a negative amount. What could that be interpreted as? A loan. Instead of giving them money and making interest, maybe it's the opposite because it's negative, so maybe you're borrowing money. So if you are in the negatives over here, and what were the interest rates associated with this one? So this is the CD at 1.92%, and this was the mutual fund at 8%, and it's negative. So let's get the answer, and then, what's over here? So the answer is 48. And so you could say that if you invest $15,000, at 1.92%, and at the same time you borrow $3,000 and you're paying 8% on such money, well then the amount of money you make there and the amount of money you have to pay for this loan kind of cancel off a little bit. And at the end of the day, you do end up with making a positive $48. Right, the total interest earned. Total interest earned. Good. Questions, comments, issues? No. So let's learn how to use our calculator to create a table to be able to answer some of these things. So that's another useful trick with your calculator that you'll be able to use from time to time. Okay, so we turn on our calculator. And let's go over to y equals. There's some old equations on there from before. I don't need them anymore, so I'm going to clear them. Get rid of them. Clear. Also notice that plot 1, plot 2, and plot 3 are deactivated at this point, right? So they're clear this way, they're deactivated, if one of them was dark, like let's say it looked like this, that would mean that plot 2 is on. That means that it's trying to create that scattergram, the dots, list 1, list 2, create the dots, and we don't want that. We have an equation. We don't have table values given to us. So we don't want the plots on. They might cause a problem. So I'm going to go up, highlight wherever it's dark, hit enter, and then it'll turn it into light. So it's been deactivated. I'm starting with a clean slate. Okay. All right. So I'm going to type in my equation. It was f of x equals to negative 0.00608 x plus 960. Okay, so I have my equation typed in. So this is what I'm going to do to set up a table. Now you have to do this only one time to set it up in your calculator. After that, it should be set and you don't have to worry about it. So table set is where we want to go. It's second table set, and then it needs to be this way. Now what's important is this part. The independent and dependent variables have to be this way. So the independent has to be under ask, and the dependent has to be under auto. If that's not the way it's already set up, use your arrows to go down there and highlight what you want, and then hit enter to select it. Okay? So I got here by hitting table set. Second table set gets you to this setting. This start, table start and delta table, that doesn't matter for us because we're not going to be using that part of it. Okay? Independent and auto. Once you have it like that, you'll hopefully never have to change that again unless you set the calculator back to its default settings or remove the batteries or something. But other than that, it should remember. Next, we're going to go to table, which is this value right above graph, table. So second table, and we get something. Now yours might have different values on it. Just delete whatever's on there. Delete, 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 delete. Get a clean slate. Okay, so what this is a place where you can evaluate your function by typing in values of x, just like we just did on the board a minute ago. So for instance, if I type in 0, enter, I'll get 960, right? Because, here's my equation. If I type in 0 into here, then this whole thing becomes 0, and I get 960, right? So the total interest earned from investing $0 into the CD account, and therefore $12,000 into the other account. Good. Questions? Yeah. Table set. Second table set. Good. In fact, I can also let's do that. I'm also going to go over to y equals. I might as well type in the other one as well. So I'll put it over here. Let's come up with the other equation, which is y equals to 12,000 minus x. And let's go back to table set. So second table set. And now I get this. So I put it in there so we can automatically see on here how much you're investing into the other account. So this represents how much you're investing into the CD account, and this represents how much you're investing into the mutual fund account. And then in the middle here is the total interest earned. Okay, so now let's try putting $1 in here. $1 into this account, which means we invested $11,999 into the other account, right? The mutual fund account earning 8%, the CD account earning 1.92%. Total interest earned $959.94. So we can very easily answer lots of these, right? We can fill out this whole table with all kinds of values and figure out the total interest earned as a function of X, the number of dollars invested into the CD account. Good. We also found out what the answer was when we did 800. F of 800, we got that, $911.36. Right, which means we invested $11,200 into the mutual fund account. We also found some other stuff. What was this one? 2,100. What was the other answer of how do we get 800? It was to let x equal to 2,100. 30 some odd people. Nobody wrote it down? $2,631 with how many cents? With 58 cents. What happened? Oh, 2,100 and what? 2,100 and it's like The Price is Right. Is that right? Deleted the one? Thank you. Okay. So this was when we wanted to figure out what amount of money we should invest into the CD account and in order to get a total of $800 in interest earned. So we discovered that this was the answer, $2,631. And that means that the rest of it, $9,368 would be invested into the other account. Good. Finally, they asked us to figure out, what happens when you invest $12,000 into here? We get that. So what does this represent? $230 is the total interest earned from investing $12,000 into the CD account. All of your money, right? Then you invest no money into the other account. And then we were also asked to figure out what happens when you invest $15,000 into this account. So if you invest $15,000 to this account, we got an answer of $48. And that's because there would be a negative investment. Negative $3,000 would be in this account. How much is that going to be? Just for this part of it. It's 8%. So how much is 8% of $3,000? So 3,000 into 3 times 0.08 is equal to $240. Okay, keeping that in mind, then how can we interpret this? That means that if this was negative, then we paid $240 in interest. We paid that because this is negative. We borrowed $3,000. But overall, we still made 48, which means that how much money did we make? How much money did we make from the CD account investing $15,000? Just for not the total amount, not both accounts, just by that account on its own, we must have made how much? We borrowed $3,000 from this account at 8%, and so we've paid $240 in interest on this account alone, which means that we must have made $288 from this account, investing $15,000 at 1.92%, because at the end of the day we got to keep $48 after we paid off the $240, right? But this is in the wrong direction, right? We should be borrowing from the account that makes very little money, and then putting it into the other account. How do we describe that? What if I told you, I want you to borrow $5,000 at 1.2%, and then take that and invest it into the account earning 8%. That's a good investment, right? So how do we represent that here? What should I type in? Negative, right? Good, because I'm borrowing. I'm going to borrow. I'm going to go negative 5,000. If I go negative 5,000, then that means that plus my 12,000 I already had, that means I get to invest $17,000 into the 8% account. And of course, I'm paying interest on the 5%. I'm sorry, on the 5,000, which I'm paying 1.92% interest rate. And at the end of the day, I get to pocket $1,264. Is that a good deal? People on Wall Street do this all day long. They borrow money at low interest, and they turn around and invest it into things that hopefully make a lot of money. and then they turn around and pay back their debts, right? It's called borrowing on margin. Borrowing on margin on Wall Street is when you do it with the intention, you borrow money with the intention of going into the stock market and investing that money. You're paying interest, and then hopefully with your winnings, you're going to turn around and pay off the debt, right? But what could go wrong? You could lose everything, right? Because of course the 8% is not guaranteed. I mean, maybe you make 8%, maybe you make 20%, maybe you lose all of it, right? It's just all over the place. It's a risk. Whereas this margin, that's a fixed cost, right? They're going to charge you a certain amount always. Good. Any questions? Back to this construction. The total interest earned is equal to the interest earned from the CD plus the interest earned from the mutual fund. We saw that that must mean that in this case, this is going to be the interest rate of 0.0192 times X plus 0.08 times Y. We also found that X plus Y must be equal to 12,000. And so here we chose to solve for Y and plug it into there, so that we would end up with a new equation that only has X's in it. So what if we work the other way around? There's no reason why we need to solve for X. Why not solve for Y? Right? Find an F of Y. So solve for X here, plug it into there, that way we have an equation that only has Y's in it. That's what we're after. Okay? So solving for Y here, for X here, we would just get 12,000 minus Y is equal to X, and then that's what goes into here. So we can get rid of all the X's. So we get that X must be equal to 12,000 minus Y, and now this is what we're going to plug right into there. We're going to replace the X with that statement over there. So this is 0.0192 times 12,000 minus Y plus 0.08Y. Now we multiply through and distribute 0.0192 times 12,000. This is going to be equal to 230.4 minus 0.0192y plus 0.08y, 0.0192. So this is 0.0608y plus 230.4, and I'll put a 0 at the end there just because we're talking about money. It's nice to round to the nearest penny. Let's just put a 40 there. Okay. And so this is going to be the total interest earned as a function of y now. So I can rewrite this as f of y. Good. So very similar to the one we had before, but this time it's a function of y, where y represents the amount of money invested into the mutual fund. Good. Questions? We can answer all the exact same questions. We just have to be careful about what we input into the y to make it match the same thing that we had before. So we have now f of y equals to 0.0608 y plus 230.40. Okay, so if we created a table of values now, where we had y and then we evaluated, we get 0 there, we're going to get 230.40, sorry. Okay, what does this mean? When we invest $0 into the mutual fund, and therefore that means we invested all of it into the CD account, we make $240.40, right? So if we went safe, all of our money went into the secure, safe, federally insured account, we would make that. Okay? And if we invest $1 into this account, therefore $11,999 into the CD account, then we would make $230 with 46 cents. We go up by about 0.0608. I mean, it's really close to 6 pennies. right? So how do we describe the slope then? This is the slope of this line, right? So what's the slope? Yeah, it's positive 0.0608, but as a sentence, what does this represent? This went up by $1. This went up by that. So the slope means that for
Every $1 that you input,
Mhm.
61 cents.
for every additional dollar invested into the mutual fund,
And there's like,
the total interest earned will increase by about 6 pennies, right? So for every additional dollar you invest into this account, that means you're taking $1 away from the low interest earning account and putting it into the higher interest earning account. Therefore, you're making an extra 6 cents, about a penny. I'm sorry, about 6 pennies for each dollar that you input in there, right? As we input another dollar, we go from there to there. We increase it by another dollar, then this is gonna go to $330 and about 52 cents, right? So for every additional dollar we take away from the CD account and put it into the mutual fund, for every dollar increase into here, right? This can go up by another dollar. For every dollar increase, then the total interest earned is gonna be increased by 6 pennies approximately. Good. Questions, comments, issues? The other equation was very similar. F of x was equal to negative 0.0608x plus 900 and, what was it? 960? Okay, so what was the interpretation there of the slope?
Every dollar you invest, you lose 6 cents.
Right, every dollar that you invest into the CD account, right, for each additional dollar you invest into the CD account, then you would lose about 6 pennies from the total interest earned, right? Because this represented what? What's the, that's the most amount of money you can make, because it represented the case where you invest 0 into the CD and all 12,000 into the mutual fund. It's the most money you can make within the restrictions of this whole investment thing. And so therefore this represents what? The lowest amount of money you can make. Because this is when you invest $0 into the mutual account, the one that makes the most amount of money, and you invest all 12,000 into the CD, which makes the lowest interest rate, which means you make the least amount of money. Good? Let's do some rough sketches for these things. So, this is be careful, I know traditionally we like to think about inputs, outputs, and the input is here usually, X there and Y there. That's usually what we like to put. But in this case, the input is the Y, right? And then the output is F of Y, which is F of Y, which is the interest earned. Right? So if we input $0, then we should get something over here like this, and it goes this way, something like that. So this point right in there is 0,230.40, right there. And then this, let's not go up that high, let's go up to there. Like that. This would represent the point 12,000. So if we invest $0 into the $0 into the mutual fund, then we make $230.40. And if we invest all $12,000 into this account, then this should be the ordered pair 12,000, oh that looks weird with the extra comma, 12,000, 960. Good. So what's the domain of this function? From 0 to 12,000? right? Y is allowed to go between 0 and 12,000. And what's the range? From $230.40 up to $960, right? And then on the other hand, what about this one? A rough sketch of this one, where this one, that's the X, that's the F of X. Then the range, the domain here still goes from 0 to 12,000, but this is going to go something like this, where this is 0, 960, and this is 12,000, 230.40, right? Where this is 12,000 right in there. So when you invest $12,000 into the CD account, you still make $230.40. And then the range is still going to be the same at $230 up through $960. The difference is the slope. The slopes are positive 0.0608, whereas here it's negative 0.068. So it's kind of like here we're starting with the case of the most you can make, 960, but then we take away 6 pennies for every time you take $1 away from that high interest earning investment and put it into the low interest earning investment. And you do that again repeatedly, right, as you invest less and less money into that account, up until the fact that up until the point where you invest no money into the mutual fund, and all of it into the CD account. Good. Yeah.
Wait, so you lose 6 pennies every single time you input into which account, the CD or the mutual?
You know, we have the CD account, and then we have the mutual fund. Right? So in this case, we're starting from the idea that we've invested all of it into all 12,000, right? So when we input a 0 in here, then we are automatically saying all of it went to the mutual fund. And as we make this number bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as this goes up, then we're taking money away from the mutual fund account, which means that we're making less money, or we're taking money away from the high interest earning account. So we're removing 6 pennies away from here from every dollar that we invest into the CD account, right? So we started with the 960, and we slowly take away pennies away from the total amount of money you could make by increasing X, which is the amount of money we invest in the CD. Whereas this is kind of like the opposite, where we start off by investing all our money into the low interest earning account, right? That means that $0 is in the mutual fund, all 12,000 is in the CD account. And as we take money away from the CD account and plug it into the mutual fund, we're taking money away from the low interest into the high interest. And for every dollar we do that, we're going to make an additional 6 pennies in interest. So that's why this one is starting to climb up, right? So as the amount of money invested into the mutual fund goes up, the total interest earned goes up by 6 pennies. That's why the slope is positive. Whereas here, for every dollar we take and put into the CD account and away from the mutual fund, the total interest is going to decrease because we're taking money away from the low risk into from the high risk into the low risk. Good. Questions, comments, issues?